Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a beautiful day in the US of A. We are starting on our new breakouts here of the Always On show, extraordinaire, whatever. Today is going to be a day focused on sports, and the big things I want to talk about is clearly the bracket. Who's going to win? Who dominated their conference tournaments over the weekend? We have March Madness in full swing starting this week, starting tomorrow. So we have a lot of good stuff to talk about there. I also want to dive on into the World Baseball Classic, touch a little bit on the news that's going around in the NFL, and then end and cap it all off on the Players Championship because I'm a golf guy. So we have to talk a little bit about golf. There's some impressive stuff in the works when it comes to the days or weekends work in the sphere of golf. But that being said, I want to start it off real quick. Just a recap, let's say, of what happened over the weekend in the World Baseball Classic. We had pools C and D really starting to take off. The US of A had a shocker against Mexico. Absolutely got smoked by the Mexicans. We got the best of the Mexicans right there, like that South Park episode. 11-5. The U.S. got dominated. We're now sitting 1-1 in pool play. What? I guess it's 5 total games. So they have what? If it's 2 games out of 5, they have 3 more to go. So they have to obviously get, I believe, in the top 2 to advance out of pool play. Still looking good. There's Canada, Colombia, and Great Britain alongside Mexico yet to be in our bracket. I'm pretty sure the United States has already beaten. Let's see if I can't just get you that real quick. That was Saturday. Who did the United States play the day before? Yeah, we played Great Britain and beat them 6-2. So we now have Canada and Colombia yet to play. And so I think our shot of getting out there should be fine. And I think I said it's a total of 5 games. It's going to be 4, obviously, because it looks like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each pool, A through D. So that being said, though, there's also some crazy news as well. Japan has also locked in their win, I guess, in Pool B. They were 4-0, absolutely perfect, undefeated in the pool. When you have Shohei Ohtani amongst other Japanese stars, they're, besides maybe some of these Caribbean countries, Japan and the U.S. and the Dominican are where it's at when it comes to baseball. There's bad showing so far. Italy was 2-2. I'll give them that. The Netherlands 2-2 in Group Pool A. So Europe has actually held its own a little bit here. But when it comes to the true blue players, Japan, they're right up there. They're as close to perfection as you can get. But Venezuela came out. They have good players, but Venezuela came out shocking, beat the Dominican Republic, also beat Puerto Rico over the weekend. They kind of crushed Puerto Rico. Let's look here at what that score was. Venezuela, they beat the Dominican 5-1. That's impressive enough. But then they followed that up with an 8. It actually ended up being 6 final against Puerto Rico on Saturday. So now what we have left, though, is we have Monday matches, which are going on right now. We have Puerto Rico versus Israel. Then later at 10 p.m. tonight, we're recording this on Monday, March 13th, is the United States versus Canada. I would have to think the United States should pull away with that. Realistically, the United States, Japan, and if I had to guess, Venezuela or the Dominican should be the favorites here. So we're going to keep ourselves abreast to what's going on there. But realistically, that's a sidebar when it comes to the big stuff happening in the world right now of sports, and that's March Madness. Let's be honest. Everybody is fully engrossed in March Madness. It's what we're all here for in March. It's the best, maybe besides the World Cup. I am hard-pressed to think of another sporting event of this magnitude, of this many, encompassing so many teams, that's better. Maybe someone can come and tell me about cricket or something of that nature, but I don't really know cricket all that well. Irregardless, though, let's just do a quick recap of what happened over the weekend when it came to the conference tournaments. And the AAC, the real non-Power 5 that I want to talk about, you had Memphis beating number 1 Houston 65, excuse me. That is Memphis's first win over a consensus number 1 team or any number 1 team in their history. They've had, I believe it was 11 attempts previously, and that was their first time beating a number one team. So congratulations to Memphis. If I'm not mistaken, they are not a bad seed here. I'm pretty sure they're an 11 seed. I'm trying to bring up the bracket here so I can show you, tell you, and be on the right track there. They're not in a play-in game. Where are you, Memphis? Why can't I find you? Okay, so they're a 6 seed. So they're a little bit better. They're out there in the East as a 6 seed. They're a little bit better than what I anticipated. But to keep the conference championship talk alive before we dive deep into tourney talk, Duke beat Virginia 59-49 to win their 22nd ACC tournament title. I believe they got like 25 or 26 regular season titles on top of that. The Duke program, besides obviously North Carolina in that conference, just so stunningly spectacular. Truly, truly are. And then we go into the Big Ten where Purdue barely beat Penn State 67-65. Purdue getting their first conference title in a tournament since its inception in 1998. They've lost in 16, 18, and 2022 previously. They have, however, been very dominant in the Big Ten overall. They have 25 regular season titles in the Big Ten. So they're no slouches. It's just when it comes time to actually win that conference tournament, they're a little bit hard-pressed to get there. Let me just take a quick sip of water. Guys, I actually have been working out recently the past few days, harder than I have before. As you can tell, I needs it. So your boy's a little bit parched these days. So I might be taking a couple more sips from the water, agua, than I usually do. But let's get on over to the Big 12 where Texas beat Kansas 76-56, sort of drummed them. And Texas won their second conference tourney title ever. They also won it in 2021. So in recent history, Texas has been pretty good. When it goes to their tournaments overall, I think they have like 32 regular season. And I shouldn't say tournaments, just their ACC regular season, ACC, Big 12 regular season titles. They're, nothing to sniff at, I guess. They're really, really good. I don't even know if that's the right expression, but I'm going to use it that way. So Texas, topping off their tenure in the Big 12, they have one more year. If they win it again, they can go out on an ultra high note when it comes to their success in basketball, at least, in the Big 12. Jumping over to the SEC, Alabama just beat up on Texas A&M, 82-63. This entire tournament, realistically, Alabama has just been on a mission. Ever since that Brandon Miller gun controversy, I guess is just the way we're going to call it here on the show. Ever since that gun controversy, Alabama has been on a tear. They are a hell of a team. Number one seed, as we'll talk about here a little bit later in the tournament. So solid. With Brandon Miller at the helm, I think personally, it could be Alabama's time. I'm going to make that prediction here later, but I think it could be Alabama's time to actually win themselves a title in basketball to accompany all those football titles they got in their back pocket. Then we're going to cap it off here in the Pac-12. We may not have too many more Pac-12s the way we understand it of these championships, coming down the pike. UCLA is going to be in the Big Ten sooner than later. So their loss to Arizona beating UCLA 61-59 in a hotly contested game, led Arizona to win their 9th conference tourney title. Obviously, the bluest of blue bloods, besides maybe Kentucky, is UCLA. North Carolina is also in that mix, along with Kansas. Uh-oh, guys, here comes the train. Oh, and it's even honking at us. It knows we're here today. So we got the train in full bore today, rumbling, stumbling, bumbling right on past the old Always On in-home studio. But that said, though, Arizona coming in hot. I believe they are another number one seed. No, they are not. They are, what is Arizona? Okay, they're a 2 seed in the South. I didn't think they were a number one seed. That being said, let's talk about the number one seeds. The number one seeds here currently, Alabama in the South, Houston in the Midwest, Purdue in the East, and then you got Kansas out west. Besides Houston, who historically is a pretty solid basketball school, let's not kid ourselves. You got some pretty solid teams as far as how the season has gone. here, sitting pretty. Alabama of late historically has been a very good basketball school, but is the SEC, besides Kentucky and now a decade ago Florida, are they going to be able to get through those stumbling blocks? You have Duke. Another notable is a 5th seed, not necessarily notable from their seed ranking, but what is notable is this is their first time outside of a top 4 seed since 2007. It just goes to show the sustained success that Mike Krzyzewski had at that program. It truly is unbelievable how good they were and still are, because this is their first year without old Mike behind the helm there, and they still won themselves an ACC conference title. I believe Virginia was the regular season title holder. Don't hold that against me if I'm wrong. But that's really the big things. North Carolina, just another thing of note, is not in the tournament. Their first time since 1985, when the field first expanded, I believe, to the 64-team format that it is currently. First time outside of the tournament since 1985. Speaking of a blue blood right there. And they also have announced that they're not going to participate in the NIT tournament. So it looks like, for all intents and purposes, North Carolina is donezo when it comes to their basketball season. So let's go to the games to watch, though, because I think there are some pivotal ones. Playing games start tomorrow, and I think almost every single one of those is good. When it comes to the South region, I believe it is tomorrow, the 14th. That's when this is going to air, when Texas A&M and Southeast Missouri State, and it's Texas A&M CC. I don't know what that means. CC, Citadel something. I've actually never heard of this team. Them and Southeast Missouri State are battling it out for the 16th seed. So they're basically going to see who's going to go get whooped by Alabama. And then also, I believe on the 14th, you have Texas Southern and FDU. I don't know who that is either. There's some funky teams, man, that make it in when you start expanding this field. They're also playing for the 16th seed in the East. So they're going to play, they will potentially go on to play one of those two teams. Purdue is not a team that I am very high on when it comes to the tournament this year, especially of the 1 seeds. I think this is going to be a very heavy 1 seed Final Four. But I think Purdue is going to be the one team that does not make it there. So if you understand who those 1 seeds are, I have Alabama, Houston, and Kansas all making it out of their region and winning. What would it be? It would be the South, Midwest, and West, respectively. So we're going to see how that all shakes out. When it comes to tourney time, that is probably not the best bet to make. So I would not advise anyone to really go to the bank with that one. But what I will say, there was a time in, I believe it was the Elite Eight last year, where on ESPN's Tourney Challenge, I was number 4 in the entire country. But then it proceeded to collapse on me. So again, that may just drive home the point that you shouldn't be listening to what I say when it comes to my picks. Sometimes I can be, Nostradamus-like. I can be, very good. But this year, like I admitted in the last podcast or last show, has not been my year of watching basketball contently and consistently. So take that all with a grain of salt. But what I do know is the Blue Bloods this year seem to be very, very good. I should say the number 1 seeds seem to be very, very good. Houston concerns me a little bit because I believe they have their one of their guards out. So that's a bit of a concern. Kansas, who essentially got dominated in the Big 12 by Texas, with Bill Self on the fritz when it comes to his health, I think they're going to have that rally around effect realistically. So you already essentially have my Final Four. The only team I'm throwing in there is Duke, just because I just have a bias for Duke, man. I think Duke is going to be the team that comes out of that Eastern bracket. But let's pivot right back to the first 4 in. After you have that Texas Southern game against FDU, who is FDU? We're going to have to see who that is. I'll look that up real quick. After that, you got Arizona State versus Nevada. They're playing for an 11th seed over there in the West. Okay, so FDU is Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. Okay, we'll see if they can make any noise. I highly doubt it. I don't think Purdue is losing in the first round. I'm pretty sure maybe Virginia is the only first seed to ever lose to a 16. I think that was a few years back now. If not, they were a second seed. Very, very rare for a 16th seed to come out, no matter who it is, Texas Southern or FDU, and beat a team the caliber of Purdue. That being said, though, we have Arizona State versus Nevada in the 11th seed in the West. They would go on to play TCU, who is the 9th seed in that region. That should be a heck of a game to watch. But the other one and final one is Mississippi State and Pitt. Should be an unbelievable game. That's going to decide who the 11th seed is in the Midwest, and they would be taking on Iowa State. So that said, though, I think the real games to watch besides those first four as Thursday and Friday, really Saturday, Sunday as well. I mean, you have the entire weekend of the best rounds in sports, right? You have the 18th and 19th, first and second round of the NCAA tournament is probably better than anything in all of sports, even the World Cup, just due to the sheer amount of games, quality of games, upsets that occur. It's going to be wild. But the big ones that I'm looking out for is Kentucky and Providence in the East Division side of the bracket. Kentucky's the 6th seed. Providence is the 11th, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm looking at that correct. I think Providence is going to pull that out. I think that's going to be the big upset in those mid-tier teams, because Kentucky, as talented as they are, no one can say they're not talented. They're just so inconsistent. But for all I know, this now dooms Providence to failure, because you don't want me being provincial when it comes to the picks. I'm not that good. But I think that was one to watch. I think Michigan State and USC in that same eastern side of the bracket should be a great one. I think USC might sneak that upset there. Also, Maryland, West Virginia, Iowa and Auburn, Arkansas and Illinois. Clearly, when you get to those tight seeds, whether it's 6 or 11, 8 and 9, when you get to that threshold of teams, you get a lot of good stuff going on. So I have no doubt that all those scores are going to be, or games, are going to be fantastic. I have in my Final Four, I think I mentioned it a second ago, I have Alabama, Duke, Kansas, and Houston. So I would have Houston and Kansas meeting off. I think it's going to be a Kansas-Alabama final. So that means I have Alabama topping Duke. And I think Alabama is just a team on a mission right now. I think they're very tight and congealed together since obviously the controversies that have been surrounding the team. I think they're a tight-knit group over there. And I am pretty sure Alabama is going to win their first national championship. As much as I hate to say it, they are going to be in the ranks of Florida in the SEC to have both basketball and football championships. It's also going to be a time where I think the SEC is going to finally show up. Besides Kentucky, who is an ever-present premier team, I think the rest of the SEC, which is historically really post 06 or pre-06, lagged as far as the quality and depth of the conference, especially when it comes to translating that competitive nature into the tournament. I think the SEC is going to be okay this year. I think Missouri is finally getting themselves back into fighting shape. I think they're going to beat Utah State in their opening game. I do think, though, Arizona, who would be their follow-up game, will spank them. But other than that, though, I'm trying to look here to see if there are any other notables. Memphis and FAU. FAU must be surprisingly good. I have not seen really any of their games, but I'm pretty sure Memphis is going to wipe the floor with FAU. I think Memphis is that sneaky hot team right now, because I believe that they are going to take out Purdue in the second round and get themselves to the Sweet 16. Memphis, very hot right now. If you are absolutely taking it to task for Houston, especially this year, that speaks volumes to how good of a squad you got going on. And I truly believe that Memphis is going to find themselves in the Sweet 16. But when it comes to the SEC, though, and them just being a little bit incompetent. I do think Tennessee's going to win their first game. I think they're going to find Duke to be a loss there in the Eastern bracket. I think Kansas State's a sneaky good team. Marquette, obviously, year in, year out, is very, very solid. Gonzaga is a team that I always, everyone knows who Gonzaga is. They always are very hyped, but they never seem to want to get the job done there. And so I'm hoping Gonzaga can bring at least themselves to the Final Four. I think they've only gotten to the Final Four once. I'm pretty sure they've never been to a final in the NCAA tournament. But when you look at the Midwest bracket, I think the biggest teams, the big games, obviously you have Iowa and Auburn. That's going to be a heck of a game. You're sitting here with Iowa State, who is either going to play Mississippi State or Pitt. I think either of those games, Mississippi State maybe not so much, but if Pitt sneaks in there, that's probably who I would pick in that game. I think Pitt, Iowa State would be a heck of a game. You also have A&M Penn State, not much to brag home about there in the Midwest. I think that tops out what would be the big ones over there for the first weekend. In the West, obviously Kansas, Howard. I think Kansas clobbers Howard clearly. Arkansas, Illinois, though, is one that I would put on everybody's radar. I think Arkansas is sneaky good. Illinois, historically, very solid. Haven't watched too much Big Ten basketball, but I think Illinois is going to be one of those teams that maybe if they beat Arkansas can give Kansas a run for their money. Other than that, though, I think TCU is going to play the winner of Arizona State and Nevada. I could see that being solid either way. I don't think TCU, they're a 6th seed. I don't necessarily think that Arizona State or Nevada is that much worse that you can lock them in as a win there. Gonzaga is going to crush Grand Canyon. Northwestern and Boise, I didn't have this as a game to watch, but just again, it's a 7 versus 10 seed. I think that should be a very solid game because you never know. You never know what's going to happen there. So we're going to watch the tournament as it progresses. But again, I think the big games to watch are Kentucky and Providence, Michigan State, USC, Maryland, West Virginia, Iowa, Auburn, and then Arkansas, Illinois. I think those are the games that are going to be, obviously, they're the closest seeds. They're going to be tight. If I had to pick any team that may give, that's, not really a household commodity when it comes to just, hey, who are these people? I think Oral Roberts could give Duke a very hotly contested game. Duke's flying high right now. I think Duke is going to make it to the Final Four, but Oral Roberts historically is a very, very good team. So do not count them out. Even the Marquette and Vermont is one of those teams that's sneaky good. I wouldn't count them out against Marquette either, but I just think the talent level at Marquette is just too dominant this year. Too dominant for them to really get out of there. Drake, Miami historically puts pretty good basketball teams out there. Drake over there in the Midwest, a 12 seed. They could also give Miami some fits. I think Indiana and Kansas State, when we're starting to get to that seed disparity, I think Indiana, I think pretty highly of them. I think they're going to get themselves to the Sweet 16. But other than that, I'm not really seeing any big time disparities where it's like, oh, that could be close. Because I think, what is it? I think it's Colonial of Charleston. I think that's the school that's playing San Diego State. I don't foresee them making any noise. But other than that, though, I think it's going to be a great tournament. We're going to look at on, what is it? It's Thursdays when everything kicks off. So on the Thursday show, we may even have to pull out a Saturday show just to get ourselves geared up and ready for what's coming in the second round, which is, maybe even Friday. Get ourselves geared up and ready for what's coming Saturday, Sunday. We're probably going to have to do that. We may have to do a postponed sports show, get ourselves, or maybe even do more. This is tourney time, right? So I have to be out here to give the people what they want. For all 15 of you that view this on average, thank you for your views. Love the views. Watch some more. Share it with friends. Also, big news, side note here, is I believe this should be the very first one. If I can do it properly, get it quickly done, should be the first one that's going to be available on podcast. I believe right now we're going to be trying to do Apple, Spotify, Google, and maybe even SoundCloud, but we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. I may not be able to get it done as quickly as I foresee in my mind's eye. But that said, though, let's transition real quick out of the big time news, the big time stuff going on in sports. And let's just check in a little bit on the offseason progress happening in the NFL. Miami yesterday had a huge trade with the LA Chargers where they traded their tight end Hunter Long and a third-round pick, the 77th overall this year, for Jalen Ramsey. If anyone is familiar with the Dolphins and the NFL this year, offense, one of the best in the league, top 5, especially when Tua was healthy, but their defense couldn't do or stop a soul. So hopefully, and especially their back 7, DBs especially. Obviously, you have Xavier Howard over there, but if Jalen Ramsey can come in and perform at the level he has been and we have become accustomed to over the past few years, the sky's the limit for Miami. They also have cleared up, I believe, somewhere in the realm of like $15 to $20 million plus in cap room. So that is going to be big to hopefully make a couple more offseason acquisitions. Miami this week or last week picked up an option for Tua, his option year on his rookie deal. So they have one more year of him that they're committing to. It looks like they also, I believe, signed, what was his name? Something White is who Miami signed, a quarterback from the Jets this, today, if I'm not mistaken. So a little contingency plan there. From what I know about the guy, which is absolutely zero, he'll be a serviceable backup because Tua, I don't know. When Tua gets nicked, you never know what's going to happen with that guy. But in other news, and this is a little bit of old news, is Derek Carr has officially signed, this is, I believe, last week, Thursday, a 4-year, $150 million contract with the Saints. Apparently $100 million guaranteed. Whoever this guy's agent is, sign him up for me right now, because how Derek Carr was able to get that amount of money, mind-boggling. Truly mind-boggling. I know that on paper his stats are respectably impressive, but there is nothing when I just watch how the Raiders progress throughout his tenure there that says, oh, this dude is worth 4 years, $150 million, $100 million guaranteed. He does have some pretty good pieces there, right? He's going to have some studs around him. Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, and then Jawan Johnson, 2 tight ends there. So he's going to have probably more tools than he's had to work with at the Raiders here at the Saints. So maybe he makes that mid-career turnaround. Who knows? Who knows what Derek Carr does, but that's such a gamble. I don't necessarily see it as being too much of a step up from having Jameis Winston there. But we'll see. I know the Saints are asking Jameis Winston now to restructure his contract. If I'm Jameis, I don't know how the league works from a monetary dollar and cent standpoint, but if I'm Jameis and I'm owed more money, I probably am going to be pretty dead set on saying no. But again, it could be one of those things that if they cut him to clear cap room, maybe having yourself a roster spot is not all that bad. Making a few $1 million. I would imagine it'd be several tens of millions of dollars, even still, because he is a very quality backup, if that is the name of the game. This is coming from a Florida fan, so we'll see how that turns out. That was an interesting signing to me as far as the dollars and cents amounts, because there's clearly good guys there at the Saints. Don't get me wrong as far as offensive pieces. You tell me Derek Carr is worth 4 years for $150 million. I mean, at minimum, you're paying him $25 million a year. Guaranteed you're paying him that much a year. That to me, I mean, one, kudos to him. That's generational wealth right there. Derek Carr is a pretty straight-laced guy, so I'm imagining he's going to, compound that money. But, and he's moving, I'm pretty sure Louisiana doesn't have any state income tax. Could be wrong there. I probably am wrong there. I think it, actually, let's look that up. Does Louisiana have a state income tax? Louisiana has a graduated individual income tax rate. Yeah, okay, so 4.25%. Okay, unfortunately, he's not going to Texas or Florida where that money would work for him a little bit harder than it's going to in Louisiana. But at least he's leaving, or he's not in California. So that's where they really take you to task, California and New York. I wonder, I don't know if people have done this, but I wonder if there's a way to be like, hey, maybe off the books. Just make me a little Costa Rica or Swiss bank account where you just put in my tax dollars so I can have an even amount, just as I would get if I were to sign at a Florida team. I highly doubt that happens. That should happen. That would be awesome, just to have a little bit of, slush fund money going around from one place to the other. But other news, probably bigger news as far as what's going on in the NFL as of late, because we have the draft coming up here in April. The Bears have officially traded away their first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. The Bears had a haul in this pick, an absolute haul. They got the Panthers' 9th round pick for this year. They got their 61st pick of this draft. They also got their first round pick in 2024. Even if the Carolina Panthers, who presumably are going to get a quarterback, get one, their turnaround is probably not going to be all that hot. So you're probably guaranteeing yourself another top 15 pick right there. Then they're going to get a 2nd round pick in 2025. Plus, they got DJ Moore, a pretty solid wide receiver from the Carolina Panthers, adding in a piece for Justin Fields. Obviously, this is a sign that the Bears are behind Justin Fields and are going to build around him, because with this type of picks that you got coming up, you can get, whether it be offensive line, tight end, defense, wide receivers, whatever you feel your biggest needs are for the Bears, you can meet them with the haul like that. Big deal. It's the first time since 2016, by the way, that a number 1 overall pick was traded. That was when the LA Rams moved up to get, do you guys know? He's not with the team anymore, Jared Goff. So if history is to be our guide, they may be moving up just to get a bust. Not that Goff isn't good. He's okay with the Lions. He's not terrible, but he's not probably worth, because I remember that trade being a big old deal. He's probably not worth what the Rams gave away to get him. Irregardless of that, though, let's do a little bit of speculation here about who will the Carolina Panthers actually pick with that number 1 overall. Obviously, I think Vegas has set the betting odds at CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. I think Will Levis, he's also in contention there, but I'm pretty sure that Anthony Richardson, my boy at Florida, is that dark horse. Obviously, he's a project. I don't think anyone really is under any false impression that he is, Andrew Luck or a Peyton Manning guy where he's ready to come in and start right away, get your team into playoff contention year 1. He's not that guy. But when it comes to the talent level of this guy, besides maybe CJ Stroud, who from an arm talent, just as good, the absolute just physical pieces that Anthony Richardson can afford you is astronomical. The real knock on him, and I think every Florida fan can agree with this, is how healthy can he stay? That dude can glide around, but he's made of glass, okay? He has got ankles that are antiques, easily broken. So I don't know if there was a game at Florida, at least in this last season, where he wasn't gimpy, whether it was his ankles, his hammies. There's a lot of torque that body is generating. So, it kind of wears and tears on you a little bit after a while. But we'll see how that all goes. I'm pretty sure that really, if I had to put my money on it, I would probably say Bryce Young. Because I think Bryce Young, while he's not getting as much of the love, he's definitely a first rounder. I think when it's all said and done, amongst the Will Levises, Anthony Richardson, CJ Strouds, those other 3 in his class, for all we know, there's some dude, Tom Brady-esque way in the back who's not going to, impress anybody but become the predominant player of this era for the quarterbacks drafted this year. But I think Bryce Young is the most sure thing. He's short, right? I think he measured in at like 5'10 3/4. But he's a very good athlete. Between the ears, nobody is, in this draft class of quarterbacks, is better. It does go to show, though, what is it when it comes to their, I don't know, is it going to be necessarily the talent level that was at Bama? Is that something that skews how good he truly is? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, the NFL will determine that in due course. But I think that was a huge news that was coming out where the Bears officially traded that away. I'm pretty sure Fields is a heck of a talent. So shore down what's going on there. Oh my gosh, we have another train coming through. You're going to hear it right about now. Not trying to talk trains over here, but maybe one day we'll do a little trains, planes, and automobiles type of show where I talk about my favorite trains. Not that I really have any. But keeping things on track here, okay? Big news in the world of the NFL there, but I want to cap the show off tonight with the Players' Championship, and smooth Scotty Scheffler got himself a win, a W at the Players' Championship this weekend, sailed into victory realistically. I'm pretty sure he won by 5 strokes, which in competitive golf at the PGA, at the Players no less, unreal. He finished his round of all 4 days at 17 under par, and I believe it's Hatton, who was 12 under par. He came surging in that final round. I'm pretty sure had himself a 5 under, 6 under round. So Hatton, that lovable Englishman who's a little bit fiery, he was in second place there. And then there were several others who were tied for 10th. It was Min Woo Lee from Australia. I believe I called him an American, but he's from Australia. Australia's close. They're a part of the American umbrella, if you will, the Anglo-Saxon sphere of, sophisticates. But he was also playing with Scotty Scheffler, paired with him over the weekend, and did not have himself. The driver was not working for him, old Min Woo Lee. Sort of reminded me of myself on good old Sunday, which is, that's winning day, clearly. So Scotty Scheffler, though, he retakes the world number 1 title. He earns himself a cool $4.5 million in prize money. Fun stat, though, is that a guy who was betting, could have been a lady, but I'm assuming it's a guy, who made a bet. I'm not sure with what casino. This is going around the old Twitter sphere, and I might get it a little bit wrong. I'm pretty sure he either bet somewhere in the range of $100,000 or $300,000 on Scotty Scheffler to win the Players' Championship, and won, obviously, because that bet hit, and won $3.3 million. So this dude, for betting on Scotty, successfully made himself almost as much prize money as Scotty Scheffler won. He was, a little over $1 million off. So that was pretty interesting. But besides that little tidbit, Scotty Scheffler is now amongst rarefied air with Jack and Tiger. He is the only player besides those two to have won a Masters and won a Players the year after he won a Masters. Jack actually did it Players, Masters, Players. I believe it was like 71 and 72. And then Tiger, I'm pretty sure in 03, 04, won the Masters, then the Players. So you're talking about the 2 greatest golfers to ever walk on the face of the earth, Jack and Tiger. So Scotty Scheffler just shows the tear he has been on for just over 365 days now. And you want to know how much of a tear he's been on? Here's a fun fact for you. In 390, I guess it's now 92 days, maybe 91 days, Scotty Scheffler has won the Phoenix Open twice, 2022 and 2023. He won Bay Hill in 2022. He won the Dell Match Play in 2022 and won the Players in 2023, obviously along with the Masters. This guy has won and netted $35 million in winnings by winning those tournaments. I believe performing well in the FedEx Cup. And then there was I believe it was oh my Lord, why can't I think of it? The Ryder Cup. I'm not quite sure. But he's won himself $35 million in the span of 1 year. That is impressive. If you want to talk about being able to retire right now, good old Scotty Scheffler could do it and do it with ease. But his career is just beginning. I'm pretty sure he's 26, 27 years old. So Scotty Scheffler is on the rise. He looks to be having that like Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth type of run right now, where he is just, besides Jon Rahm and Rory, but Rory hasn't really won a prestigious, whether it be a major or a tournament in a minute. He did win the FedEx Cup last year, so that's obviously very impressive. But when it comes to the big boy tournaments, the Players, the Opens, the Masters, and then the PGA Championship. He hasn't won those. He hasn't won a major in a minute. But Jon Rahm and Rory are the only guys really on the realm of Scottie Scheffler right now. He is so far above and beyond, in my opinion at least, when it comes to just here's the late stages of a round or of a tournament. He just has a switch in him, man. And when it came to the players, he just put a pedal to the metal, foot on the gas, and really his foot on the throat of the competition and choked everybody out. So he is good. Jon Rahm, speaking of the devil, he actually had to drop out of this tournament before the weekend or early into Saturday because he had a stomach bug. Golfers ain't going to tough it out there on the course. We had a guy who was being praised. I believe it was Minwoo Lee, who was being praised because he had a cramp on like number 10 on Friday or Saturday, and people were giving him praise for walking it out. It's like, come on, dude. People have cramps in big-time sports all the freaking time, and they keep on playing. But to really cap off the show here, that's the last thing. I just wanted to say Tyreek Hill is a fast man. For those of you who may not have seen it, and I'm probably going to try and see if I can't upload it here to the show. That's something editing-wise. We'll see how that goes. But Tyreek Hill crushed his competition. If you want to just see something fun, go look at the USA Track and Field Masters Indoor Championships and watch his 60-meter dash against his fellow competitors. Absolutely smoke shows him. I mean, it looked like I was out there running against him. And these dudes that he's running against are also pretty dang fast. So that was something that I think everyone should go watch. But on that note, we're going to wrap it up here at the first annual Always On Sports Affair. We're going to be coming back to you here probably a couple more times this week. Realistically, if I had to guess, Thursday and Friday, maybe even Saturday, just to do a little bit more recap of what's going on in college basketball, because it's going to be a wild weekend. So for everyone out there, have yourself a good. This is going to come out maybe tonight, which is Monday the 13th, and or early morning Tuesday. So whichever day you're viewing this, enjoy yourselves and get ready for some hell of a basketball going on. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off. See you guys tomorrow for some punditry about politics, news, and the markets, because we got some banking information we got to talk about. But until then, I'll see you guys later.